Hello, this is the game between Magnus and Sidipov. First thing, what we can notice here that black is threatening to capture on e4, and when we capture, our queen is hanging. But we are not interested to move the pawn from e4. Why? Because then we will activate the enemy knight. So the knight can jump maybe on f5, maybe on d5, it doesn't matter, he will be active. So we don't want to move the pawn from e4. So what else we have here as option? Probably to move the queen from that place. But let's think deeper here. So for example, let's imagine that there is no queens on the board. So what would be our target then? So for that we need to exchange the pawns. But then the pawn on c5 will be weak, that is one thing. And how black can defend that pawn? Probably with a b6, because he can't push him. So with a b6, and then 6th rank will be weak. So, and we have some opportunity maybe to bring the rook on f6. So that means that our rook will be active. And that is exactly what Magnus saw here, that he can attack the pawns on the queen side, and he can bring, or he can land with the rook on f6, and that rook will be really active. So that is why he played here queen f2. Idea with that is to force practically, or to offer black, and this is some psychological thing in chess, because usually such players like who is not that good in chess like Sidipov, of course he's not good like Magnus Carlsen, they always psychologically think is in chess is, if we trade the queens, probably I have better chance for a draw. And of course every player is thinking about draw when they're playing with Magnus Carlsen or some other top player in the world. So he started to think, if we trade the queens, that will be maybe some one step closer to the draw. But the problem is, without queens on the board, who will protect space on the enemy side, or on the black side? So, okay, queen d4 still is a good move. But after knight from f to d3, now black made mistake and he captured the queen on f2. Better move was f5. Why? First, with f5, black took the space, so nobody can move the pieces, heavy pieces on f6 anymore. Second thing, white probably is not interesting to open diagonal for black bishop. Second, after e5 maybe, he can play bishop e4, and now totally black stop or close heavy pieces from white side. So now we have completely different situation. Why Magnus didn't capture the queen here is because without before knight from f to d3 then the pawn on c2 will be weak. So practically he tried with knight from f to d3, but now black made crucial mistake in the game. I think he captured the queen. One thing what we can see in a lot of my my analysis, because Magnus is doing that constantly. He's exchanging the queens and he's entering in some end game where he recognized before that what could be potential target, what he will attack in the future. Okay, so rook f2, then b6. Okay, preventive move, because the pawn here is hanging, so someone needs to protect that. But now we can play nice e4, and the pawn now on b6 is hanging. Okay, black still can play b5 and now, and we don't have time to capture the pawn, but can we play c4 after that? Probably no. So rook b8 to protect that, but now here we are. We put the rook on f6. So we have a couple of active pieces. We have pawn on e4 who is protecting the knight, and that is why king g7 to force white to play e5. But still black can't move the knight. Why? Because the bishop is hanging, and he can't move the bishop because of the pawn. Practically one thing leads to another. Everything is passive in black position. So that is why b5 right now. Knight a5. Okay, maybe knight d6 was better, because also white can focus now on f7 weakness, but okay, still white will earn some of pawns here. Of course, black can't defend everything on the queen side. So knight a5, c4, knight b4, and then bishop a8. Now we can capture the pawn on a6, and after rook d8, okay, he wants to be active, but the rook is lonely there, so probably he can't do anything. Knight c7, and after rook d2 we can just simply offer the exchange with the rooks. Still, this is far away better position for white. So let's exchange that, and then knight f5. Knight f5 is really bad move. Why? Because at least black should stay with only with one pawn on the queen side. So then white won't have opportunity to push the pawns. But with knight f5, now we can capture the pawn on b5, and after exchange, we can capture with the a pawn. Maybe it's not that much logical, because it's always better to have pawns who is far away from other pieces, or especially from the king. But this is two connected pawns, and a takes on b3 is the best move here, what white can play. With two connected pass pawns, of course, white doesn't need to worry about anything here. He has completely winning position. So rook d8, knight c4, bishop c6, we close d file, and also we are paying attention about the pawn on f7, because this pawn could be weakness, especially after rook a1 and then rook a7. So first, now the pawn here is hanging. Okay, now after rook d1, he's not hanging because we have this cover attack. So that is why knight e6. And then we start to push our pawns. Rook b8. Okay, now there is a threat to our pawn, so that is why b5. After b5, black can't capture the pawn because we have rook b1 and knight a3, we will capture that bishop. So that is why rook a8, but now we can simply move the rook on a1. He can't capture, we have a knight, so everything is under control. So that is why bishop d5, he wants to have a look on that pawn on f7, but with one simple move we can kick the bishop from that diagonal, and after rook a8 we can bring the rook on a7. If you can see, Magnus always is playing perfect moves. He's not giving any opportunity or any chance to his opponent to consolidate, or at least to do something, to be active. He's completely holding everything under control. Knight e8, and after c4, black resigned the game. I think it's time for him to resign in this moment, because white will simply just push the pawns. Okay, so what we can learn from this lesson? Again, how smart or how deep was from Magnus to recognize when is the moment to trade the queens, and without queens there is a lot of space where he can put his especially heavy pieces, for example the rook on f6, but also he found some nice places for his knights, and in combination with the rook they will capture some material, and that will be probably enough for world champion to win the game, of course. Okay, thank you if you joined this game. See you in the next. Bye bye.